Hello, today I will talk about video game development in Poland. So first off, we will begin with the history of the video game industry, more specifically the early days, and we begin specifically in the communist era, where there was a lot of illegal swapping of pirated games, which of course fostered a community of players and hobbyist developers who would kind of go under the radar to make and play their own games. About 1983, we get our first worthy kind of video games, the 8-bit game webmaster created by Jerzy Dybski, Piotr Bednawski, and Jaroslav Wyzgowski. Some other notable video games include Magic Keys and Pandora's Box. And around 1990s, we actually start getting growth of home computers like Atari and Amiga. Now that since there are now home computers and video game consoles, we get video game developers. Our first professional game development companies such as Metropolis Software, Mirage, and LK Avalon specifically. LK Avalon begins creating games for these new platforms. So now they have games. Now the transition commercialization begins with the fall of communism in 1989, so that means Poland can now engage with the global market instead of just staying to their own. And in the 1990s, you get our first legal contributors with CDP.pl, a CD project which starts reaching out to other places, and Nisho Iwai Europe PLC, which is an official agent for Sega at the time. And in 1994, we get our first official Polish localization of video games too. There's no exact first game to be localized, but we kind of get a stream of video games. And in 1999, we have our first official success of a localized version of Baldur's Gate, which sells about 18,000 copies on it the first day, and kind of highlights that there's a potential for a local market, and it also spurs the creation of local game development studios as well. Now, rise to global prominence, 2000s, we get our video game industry boom, and we connect the Polish developers to the global audience. And now, currently, we have Polish studios which release many video games every year, and they are now one of the world's largest exporters of games. And we will talk more about their global studios in a bit. Now, the cultural impact of video games, we will look specifically on their creative heritage and how their history of under-the-radar innovation actually means that there's a lot of Slavic folklore integrated into their games, lots of local art, and lots of unique perspectives. I will break this down into 3 categories: the blending local and global, narrative and perspective, and finally, innovation. So the blending local and global, we have Polish developers using global conventions, more specifically categories such as fantasy, sci-fi, and cyberpunk, to tell stories. By incorporating Slavic mythology typically, you'll see there's a lot of appearances of historical buildings and their unique art styles. For narrative and perspective, we have the specific cultural and historical experiences, so they're mostly their struggles and resilience through the USSR, which builds up unique perspective and unique narrative styles within their games. You also have the innovation. Poland has a great history of closed markets under the Soviet Union, kind of a brief flashback to the PC gaming, which was a hobby and mostly done through the black market, and the fostering of a culture of technical skill, which certainly helps them now, and a lot of innovation from an early age too, which kind of jump-started their current success. Now, some of their popular studios, we have CD Projekt Red, the most popular one, in my opinion, with their Witcher series and Cyberpunk 2077. You have 11-bit studios with Frostpunk, This War of Mine, Moonlighter, Anomaly, Wars on Earth. 10 Square Games also has many popular games, but most of them are simulators, and none felt popular quite enough in America to list here. We have Playway, which has a lot more popular simulators that you see here in America, with Car Mechanic Simulator, 911 Operator Cooking, Thief, and many more simulators. We also have Techland with Dying Light and Call of Juarez. The final popular studio that I will mention here is People Can Fly, with their most prominent game being Fortnite, which they worked on with Epic Games. We have Outriders, Lost Earth, Painkillers, Gears of War, and many more games that they worked on. And that is all for game development in Poland. Thank you.